Hello and welcome to another edition of your favourite recycling podcast. That is, of course, Recycle. Don't be a waster. In today's episode, we want to talk about, a technical or semi-technical area of recycling, and that is measuring how you're doing. I suppose the technical term or the actual term for this is doing a waste audit. So, I think the concept is if you can't measure things, you can't improve. And so we have to, when you're in the world of recycling, and say you're a business or even a household, and you want to know how you are doing as regards recycling and where you are, basically you have to have a starting position. And then from that starting position, you can put in place some sensible strategies to, minimize the stuff you're doing wrong and to improve on what you're doing right. So fundamentally, the starting position, and then as we go on, the way you measure any improvements or changes in performance is what's called a waste audit. I suppose the word audit is coming from, audit of financial statements, that concept, whereby you're checking something, you're digging into the detail, you're getting some sort of assurance about the actual reality of facts and figures. You're not guessing or just, putting your finger in the air and seeing which way the wind's blowing. So how do you do a waste audit? So let's take the example of a business. Let's just take any business like let's say a cafe, a very simple business that we all roughly understand. So how do you do a waste audit? Fundamentally, you pick a day that is broadly, not unusual for the waste that would be in the bins. A day that is standard, let's say. And from that day, then you turn up, obviously a day that the bins haven't been emptied. You'd like them to be full. So let's say the day before the bins get emptied. You turn up and basically you get messy. You fundamentally empty the bins out onto the yard. Obviously, wear sensible clothing, protective gear. You never know what's in bins. So clearly you're wearing protective masks, maybe for any noxious smells. You're wearing sensible gloves that protect you from any cuts, etc. So you're taking precautions. But what fundamentally you do is you empty the bin out onto the tarmac or onto the yard, and you go through it and itemize, categorize, and get as much detail and measurement as to what is in the contents. So fundamentally, you want to be counting, the weight of that, so weighing it to work out the sheer weight. Weight's probably the best. This is like kilograms, etc. It's probably the best measure because clearly, if space or volume can be influenced by compaction. So weight is clearly the best method of doing this. And you measure it out and you would start weighing what is in it. Food waste, X%, having a good scale system. Cardboard X%, commingled glass bottles, etc. X%. And from that basis, you then, probably photograph everything, document everything, and note it up into a table. And this is the process that large corporations do when they try to get, a position as to where they are for recycling. And, it may surprise you what is actually going into your bins and what can actually be recycled. So that's what you do. You dig across, the general waste bin, any other bins you have, any recycling bins. You dig into your cardboard bin, into your commingled recycling bin, and do the same purpose. And then you total up where you're sitting. Is your recycling percentage 50%, 60%, 80%? And, how much recyclable material is actually ending up in your general waste? And then clearly by just, putting in place better systems, better processes, potentially an additional service. If you're looking at, you may need an organic waste bin. If a large amount of the waste in the bin is organic food waste, potentially those things could help. Or, a cardboard bin if you don't have a cardboard bin. So that's, it's pretty simple, but it's a dirty job. And oftentimes it's not what people think it will be. You can be surprised. Realistically, a bin, once it goes in the bin, you forget about it. I think we all want to just move on and get on with our lives. We don't want to be thinking about that aspect of things. But it is a good position. In a large corporation, this can be done to save money, obviously because recycling is cheaper relatively than general waste. And so corporations can save significant funds simply by recycling more. And of course, it's good for their green credentials. And of course, it is naturally good for the environment. So, this is what you do. And then potentially you would come back and you do it again, depending on the project you're running. It could be at a year's time, it could be 6 months, and remeasure the same system and see where you sit. So, it's not rocket science. It is, let's be honest, it's not pleasant work. It's not fun, and it takes a bit of effort. But it is something that is worthwhile if a company or even just a household is really seeking to drive the recycling. As always, you'll find a blog about this topic on our website, how this is done, a bit more detail. And we'd always promote the safety aspect to make sure that anybody doing this knows what they're doing and has the correct, health and safety, materials and gloves, etc. I was going to say common sense, and then the old saying is common sense is not that common. But, it's because one thing you have to be aware, you never know what's in a bin. People can just dump random things in there, so you have to be safe and secure, especially when things are bagged, so you don't know what's inside the plastic bags. But yeah, that's where it is. It's really getting into the dirtier side of the business. But with that, you will see real results. And I suppose without sometimes getting your hands dirty, sometimes you have to break eggs to make an omelette, is the old saying, and you have to get into that side of it sometimes to really get a real understanding and drive results. And if you're starting to measure it, it gives people something to aim for. And in larger corporations, you can compete. Different branches or shops, etc., can compete against each other. So that's how it works. And we'll have some details about this on our website. So if you want any further details, go there to waster.com.au. In the meantime, we'll say have a great week, and remember, recycle. Don't be a waster.